There is a film of a purported Bigfoot, which the hair is so uniform over the body that one has to assume it's a costume of some sort. Because in non-human primates, almost inevitably, they have variation in hair length over their bodies.
The local Seminole Indians believe that Bigfoot does exist and that it has special powers.
It uses its magic to get away. A part of a hypnosis stage that it puts people in, and to where it could be standing right there in front of you and you still wouldn't see it.
Although it's highly unlikely that such a creature exists today, how do we explain the several thousand reported sightings across America? Some could be bears, tricks of light or shadows, maybe even elaborate hoaxes. But what about the rest?
3 or 4 weeks ago, my daughter saw some creature like that standing behind a tree. That's all I know.
Really? What did she say about it?
Well, she didn't know either. Some kind of like animals, you know, like a bear or something, you know, had a fuzz all over him, you know. He was tall. He's just hiding behind a tree.
I think that people are seeing Bigfoot are just seeing a big bear. The bears that I've hunted in Alaska stand up, and I mean they stand pretty tall, you know, 8-10 feet. So they could certainly mistake one for a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I've never seen an animal in the wild with a instep. Never seen one with 3 toes, and that's what really got to me, you know. And I still don't know what it is. I'd like to know.
But we did find footprints, and there were quite a few of them. From time to time, they would just be there. And what we saw appeared to have 3 toes on it, and it was a fairly large footprints, but they weren't anything that anybody we knew could identify. So everybody had ruled out bears.
Well, some of them, especially in snow and whatever, I think are bear prints. Or there's a chance they could be people in snowshoes who have left, not deliberately, but just people come along later and see these. But the ones that are the clearest in mud and sand and whatever could very likely be people who are trying to get a bit of attention to the issue in their area.
In the making of this program, dozens of eyewitness reports from local residents were examined, some from years ago and some still fresh in the air. The team's aim was simple: to visit the locations where the sightings had been reported most recently, and if it did exist, to capture a Bigfoot on film. With the team was Cindy Bear, a local journalist from Tulsa, who has been investigating the phenomena for years, and David Wilbanks, a field researcher who has studied Bigfoot since he was a child.
Generally, it's a creature, upright, bipedal, humanoid type creature, anywhere from 5 to 9 feet tall. We get reports of them having a long reddish type hair over their body, which is most common around these parts. A fairly large number of sightings that they relate a foul odor to. And the more common odor I've heard described is like a wet dog that's rolled in some really bad roadkill.
How strong this odor is, I don't know. I haven't smelled a Bigfoot odor, but I think any impressions, visual, auditory, olfactory, when you're nervous and frightened somewhat or just a bit on edge, would be intensified, I would expect. So it's hard to know what really people have sensed olfactorily if it's not Bigfoot.
For every one person that's willing to come forward and say something about it, there's a good chance there's 3 or 4 more in that same area that has seen the same thing and just, doesn't want the ridicule or don't want to put their reputation on the line. But there is a lot more sightings reported in Oklahoma than what people realize.
I was coming down the old road And when I was coming down, I could come to an area and there was this curve in the old gravel road. And when I got to it, these 3 deer ran right out in front of me and down the embankment to my left. And just immediately they turned and ran back up the embankment again and crossed the road in front of me and almost hit one with the truck. Well, when I stopped, I looked down in the woods to see what spooked them. And there was this thing standing down there by a tree, and it looked to be about maybe 6 to 7 foot in height, and it had dark blackish brown hair covering its body, and it was standing on 2 feet. And I had to look twice because I wasn't sure what it was. You could tell its head was kind of like a football shape. You know, it had like a crest to its head. And I looked at it and it was looking right at me and kind of made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. And I watched it for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden it just turned around and took off walking on 2 legs down the hill and disappeared down through the mountain.
Usually people do these as pranks. I know people. In fact, I have a relative who has carved huge feet to walk around in a park as a joke on the rangers there that he knows. He's also told me of rangers encountering a man in a gorilla suit holding the head of the costume under his arm walking along the road, which seems rather ill-advised since some people want to shoot Bigfoot.
Local game warden Mike Virgin had heard many of the reports, but was less than convinced.
I really don't know what to make of it all. I think that a lot of people that are telling the stories really believe they've seen something. Some of them may be making it up just to get a little publicity, but I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. I've been here a long time and I've never seen anything.
It was probably about 9:30 in the evening, and as we were just driving along, I just happened to look to the right of me, and on the back side of a barbed wire fence, I saw a large creature, like it was sitting down, and it had its legs out beside it, and it was holding itself up with its arms. And the thing that caught my attention was this thing, the shoulder span was so wide, it had to be at least 3, maybe 3.5 feet wide. And the head on this thing was enormous. There was no neck at all.
I think it was just some comedian in a costume just out trying to fool people myself.
Well, the possibility is that they are misidentifying other animals, other creatures, and there's also the possibility it's just plain hoax.
I imagine there's some out there though, don't you? I guess we'll find out someday.